What is generative AI? Let's start with something we have used for decades, traditional software. Imagine we build a calculator application. As a developer, I write code that tells the computer exactly what to do. I have created a rule. The rule is: when someone gives me two numbers, add them together and return the result. The user gives an input. The calculator follows the instructions we wrote. And it produces an output. Let's say the user enters 2 plus 2. The calculator does not think. It does not understand mathematics. It simply follows the rules we created. The important thing here is the intelligence is in the code written by humans. Now let's look at something different. Imagine I ask, write me a story about a robot who becomes a chef. Where is the code for that? Did we write a method called create robot chef story? No. Unlike our calculator, we did not create a rule for every possible question. Instead, we give the AI an instruction called a prompt. With traditional software, the developer writes the rules first. With generative AI, we don't write every possible rule. Have you ever learned to ride a bicycle? Nobody gave you a rule book saying, turn the handlebar 12 degrees. Lean exactly 5 degrees. Instead, you practiced. After enough practice, your brain recognized patterns. Now you just know how to ride. AI learns in a very similar way. Imagine giving a child 1 million books to read. The child starts noticing things like stories usually have a beginning, middle and end. Questions usually end with a question mark. Dogs bark. Birds fly. Nobody programmed these rules. The child discovered them. Next, imagine that same child reads millions of websites. Now they learn recipes, history, science, sports, programming, geography. Again, they aren't memorizing every website. They're recognizing patterns. Imagine showing someone millions of C# programs. Eventually they notice things like if statements. They see this thousands of times. They notice methods. They notice classes. Loops. LINQ dependency injection. Eventually they understand the patterns of C#. Not every single program. Finally, imagine listening to millions of conversations between people. Now you learn things like if someone says, hello, a common response is, hi. If someone asks, how are you? People usually answer, I'm good. You begin predicting what people are likely to say next. This whole learning stage is called training. During training, nobody is asking ChatGPT questions. Instead, it's learning from enormous amounts of text so it can recognize language patterns. Think of it as going to school. Once school is finished, training stops. Imagine I say, twinkle twinkle little. Everyone watching already knows the next word. Ask the audience to answer. They'll all say, star. Did you memorize every time you've heard that song? No. Your brain recognized the pattern. AI does the same thing. Except instead of nursery rhymes, it has learned patterns from billions of words. Let's do a practical demo. First, let's create Azure OpenAI resource in Azure Portal. Once it has been created, click on Explore Foundry Portals button. This will open a new tab where we will deploy a model. In this case, I have chosen GPT-5 mini model. Make a note of the URL endpoint, API key, and the deployment name. Let's jump back to Visual Studio Code. First, create a console app called Gen AI. Open the project in Visual Studio Code. We will add two packages to this project, Azure OpenAI and Azure Identity. To save time, I will copy and paste the sections of the code. Add the using statements, then we will add the endpoint URL, API key, and the deployment name. that we copied earlier from Azure Portal. We will create an Azure client passing it the endpoint and the API key. We will create a chat client passing it the deployment name. We ask the user for a prompt and read the prompt. We add a chat completion, creating a new user chat message passing it the prompt. Finally, we read the AI response and print it to screen. Now you can run the project and ask it any question and it will respond accordingly. Congratulations, with few lines of code we managed to create a generative AI application.